Today we will introduce the serious situation of the New Zealand aircraft engine supply crisis. Ivan Xiangdeng, the lead consultant from Grudi. First, we must be honest about the engine situation. Many people think this is just a maintenance delay. However, our analysis shows this is wrong. This is a structural failure, not a temporary one. Global repair shops are full. Engine's repair time has gone from 60 days to over 300 days. This is mean our place will be aircraft on ground until 2026. So this is not an engineering problem anymore. It is a strategic crisis. Why is this the CEO problem today? Because the cost is too high. We are facing 100 million New Zealand dollar impacts on our profit. This puts our FY26 financial targets at risk. Right now, we are renting planes with leasing to keep flying. It works, but it is too expensive. Our half-year profits already dropped by 18%. We are burning cash just to keep the schedule running. We even had to cancel the Seoul route. We are losing money and we are losing market share. Let me explain why this issue needs CEO attention. First is the supplier structure. The engines market has very few suppliers. It has high technical and approvals barriers. Because of this, Air New Zealand is locked into these suppliers. Changing supplier is not realistic. Normal purchasing action do not work here. This is not an operational problem. It is a structural problem. Second, this is a strategic issue. Using quality metrics, engines are strategic items. They have high impacts on profits and high supply risk. This issue cannot be solved by daily management. They need top-level decision and negotiation. Third, the financial impacts. By FY26, the expand profits impacts is about 100 million. This level of impacts needs CEO and board attention. It cannot be treated as a small operational cost. When we put this together, operational team cannot fix this. CEO level action is required.
And here comes our method and sources. Let me briefly explain how we analyze the engine supply issue and how we moved from evidence to judgment. The question was simple but important. Is the engine supply disruption just a short-term problem or a long-term strategic risk? To answer this, we need three things: evidence, analysis, and judgment. Let me show you how we got there. First, we have to define the problem correctly. Was this just an operational hiccup? A few planes grounded, some delays, then back to the normal? Or was it something deeper, a fundamental exposure that could affect the business for years? We focused on three things: supply risk, how vulnerable are we, and long-term capacity. Will this keep happening? And earnings sensitivity. Does this actually matter financially? This framing shifts everything. We weren't solving a maintenance issue. We were assessing strategic exposure. So how do we make that assessment precise? We used CrowdJig metrics, a proven framework that all of the company actually use to prioritize supplier risks. It is a simple two dimensions. Profit impact, how much does it hurt the business? And supply risk, how trapped are we? This framework does three critical things. One, it links supplier power directly to business risks. And two, it separates short-term losses from long-term exposure. Three, it tells executive where to focus their attention and why. Perfect. Perfect for a CEO who needs clarity, not complexity. Now here's the reality. The challenge wasn't finding data, the challenge was making sense of it. We have information from annual report, industry forecast, media coverage, regulatory updates, all over the place. So we build a process. First, gather fragmented information from multiple credible sources. Second, look for patterns. What keeps showing up? Extended groundings, repeated delays, supplier capacity constraints. Third, classify strategically using the CrowdStrike matrix. This wasn't guesswork, it was displaying pattern recognition under uncertainty. Exactly what executives face every day. Finally, let's talk about the validation. We validate our findings three ways. One, consistent patterns across independent sources. Two, multiple perspectives, not just the company but industry experts, regulators, financial analysts. Three, repeated over time. This isn't one month blip, it's been ongoing. But let's be clear about the limit. We don't care full constraint, contract visibility. Supply conditions can change. This requires ongoing monitoring. However, and this is critical, even with these limits, the direction of the risk is clear, the nature of exposure is consistent, and that's enough to support strategic decision making.
Hi everyone, I will now walk you through our key findings and more importantly what they mean of Air New Zealand from a strategic perspective. Rather than listing results, I will focus on the implications of decision making at the CEO. Our first key insight comes from applying the Karagic matrix. When we assess aircraft engines in terms of profit impact and supply risk, they clearly fall into the strategic item category. For Air New Zealand, engine availability directly affects fleet utilization, route capacity, and financial performance. If engines are unavailable, aircraft are grounded, routes are cancelled, and revenue is lost. So, this tells us something important. The current engine issue is not a routine maintenance problem, but a strategic risk embedded in the core operating mode of the airline. What makes this risk more serious is that it is structural, not temporary. Industry evidence shows that global engine maintenance turnaround times have increased sharply, from around 2 months to close to a year. Many affected aircraft are now expected to remain out of service until at least 2026. This means Air New Zealand is not facing a short-term disruption that can be solved by restructuring or efficiency improvements. Instead, it is dealing with a long-term capacity constraint that directly threaten FY26 financial targets and network stability. In response, the airline has relied on wet leasing aircraft from third parties to maintain flight schedules. In the short term, this helps protect customer experience and route presence. However, it comes at a very high financial cost. which is already visible in the significant drop in half-year profit. The key insight here is that Air New Zealand is trading financial performance for short-term operational reliability. This may be accessible as a temporary bridge, but it is financially unsustainable as a long-term strategy. Looking deeper, this situation is strongly shaped by limited bargaining power. The global aircraft engine market is dominated by a small number of certified suppliers, creating a concentrated oligopoly. Switching suppliers is extremely difficult due to technical integration and strict safety certification requirements. As a mid-sized airline, Air New Zealand lacks the purchasing scale and the leverage of large global carriers. This places the company in a high dependency, low power position within the supply chain. At the root of all these issues is structural suppliers dependence. Aircraft engines are effectively locked in once an aircraft type is selected, which makes conventional procurement strategies such as multi-sourcing largely ineffective. This means that problem cannot be solved through better contracting or short-term negotiations. Taken together, these findings show that this is a CEO-level structural issue, not something operational teams can resolve through maintenance or scheduling improvements. Without strategic intervention, Air New Zealand risks continued profit erosion and long-term network weakening. This is why the next stage of our work focuses on strategic-level options rather than operational firefighting. Thank you.
Hello everyone, in this part I will focus on three elements: emerging strategic options, likely direction, and what comes next. First, this is not a maintenance issue, it is a CEO-level strategic control problem. An engine shortage and MRO capacity constraints have created prolonged aircraft grounding, causing around $100 million in profit impact. This threatens both financial performance and long-term competitiveness. We identified three realistic strategic options. The first is deep strategic analysis, trending higher costs for reliability. The second is selective investment in internal MRO capability to reduce long-term dependency. The third is network retrenchment, which protects short-term cash flow but damages long-term positioning. However, our analysis shows no single option can solve both short-term stability and long-term strategical risk. Therefore, we recommend a dual-track strategy, using strategic analysis to stabilize operations in the next 12 months, while investing in internal MRO capability to rebuild control over the next 24 months. The implementation is staged. Phase 1. Focus on CEO-led supplier negotiations to secure property access. Phase 2. Build selective internal capabilities. Phase 3. Rebalances supplier relationships once bargaining power improves. However, three uncertainties remain: OEM execution reliability, internal capability, and talent availability. These require continuous validation. In conclusion, this success is not about fixing energies. It is about restoring strategic control. Our recommendation enable Air New Zealand to move from reactive survival to protect strategic leadership. Thank you for watching. This is the end.